Hello and welcome to CVR News Network. You're watching CVR English, World 360, and I'm Sandeep. The details are India delivered a sharp rebuttal to Pakistan at the United Nations, dismissing its claims as baseless and highlighting recent terror attack that claimed more than 20 lives. The Indian representative condemned Pakistan's continued support for cross-border terrorism and reaffirmed India's commitment to exposing its duplicity on global platforms.
Mr. President, at the outset, let me thank you for convening this annual open debate today on the important theme of protection of civilians in armed conflict. The world is witnessing a surge in armed conflict, and the civilians continue to be victims of such conflicts. It's highly alarming to see that in 2024, as per ICRC records, the number of victims affected by armed conflict has increased, with 56,000 cases registered of missing persons alone. It's a paramount responsibility of the national governments to create a conducive environment where civilians are safe and secure. While we acknowledge the national responsibility, we should not ignore the adverse impacts of all forms of terrorism, including those emanating from across borders in today's debate on protection of civilians. It is needless to mention that the terror entities have gained significantly enhanced capabilities by having access to new and emerging technologies, which present us with new threats, particularly to the civilian populations. In this regard, the efforts of the Council and of the international community should be directed at assisting national authorities in developing capabilities and capacities to protect civilians. It's unfortunate that the parties to the armed conflicts continue to attack civilian populations, particularly women, children, and other vulnerable groups, as well as indispensable civilian infrastructure, such as hospitals, by projecting them as legitimate targets. Regrettably, during armed conflicts, civilians, including women and children, are used as human shields for military operations and terrorist activities. Therefore, it is paramount that the international community resolves to take concrete actions towards the implementation of relevant Security Council resolutions that have been previously adopted. Mr. President, any attack on civilians and humanitarian workers is a grave violation of international law, in particular international humanitarian law. The existing legal framework concerning the protection of civilians cannot be overlooked. Respect for principles of the UN Charter, including sovereignty and territorial integrity of member states, should remain the basis for all actions taken by the Council for the protection of civilians. A politically motivated decision to intervene in an armed conflict situation may have devastating consequences, including to the civilian population, and therefore must be prevented. Furthermore, any intervention must be proportionate and based on credible and verified threat perception. The Council and the international community must take necessary measures to ensure effective and timely protection of civilians, including their life, dignity, and rights. The core principles of humanity, neutrality, impartiality, and independence must continue to guide the operations of all humanitarian agencies and organizations. Mr. President, I am constrained to respond to the baseless allegations of the representative of Pakistan on a number of issues. First, India has experienced decades of Pakistani-sponsored terrorist attacks across our borders. This has ranged from the horrific 26/11 attack on the city of Mumbai to the barbaric mass murder of innocent tourists in Pahalgam in April 2025. The victims of Pakistani terrorism have been predominantly civilians, since its objective has been to attack our prosperity, our progress, and our morale. For such a nation to even participate in a discussion on protection of civilians is an affront to the international community. Second, Pakistan has repeatedly used the civilian cover to advance the cause of terrorism. We just recently saw senior government, police, and military officials pay respects at the funeral of noted terrorists targeted by Operation Sindoor. A nation that makes no distinction between terrorists and civilians has no credentials to speak about protecting civilians.
At least 12 people have been injured, some seriously, in a knife attack in Hamburg, Germany, according to reports. A woman has been arrested by federal police after the attack at Hamburg Central Station on Friday evening. It has not been confirmed by the police. 3 of the injured are said to be in a critical condition. Another 3 are seriously injured, and 6 more people have sustained minor injuries, according to the local newspaper.
Richtung, 100 Meter in diese Richtung. Auch für Sie, 100 Meter. Der ist potenziell stabil. Wir haben hier hinten noch eine. Richtung, 100 Meter in diese Richtung. Auch für Sie, 100 Meter.
Russia launched a major overnight assault on Kiev in early hours of Saturday, May 24th, using drones and missiles that triggered fires across the multiple districts. At least 8 people were injured, with 2 hospitalized due to debris hitting residential buildings in the Dniprovsky district and a shopping center in Oblon, according to Mayor Vitaly Klitschko. Air defense systems were activated throughout the city during the 7-hour alert. The attack follows Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov's vow of retaliation for over 800 Ukrainian drone strikes on Russian territory, including several in Moscow, intensifying the ongoing conflict. US President Donald Trump has signed executive orders to fast-track nuclear reactor licensing and overhaul the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, aiming to cut red tape and meet surging energy demands driven by AI and data centers. The initiative reduces the licensing timeline to 18 months and pushes for uranium production, military-based reactors, and expanded federal collaboration, marking a bold shift in US nuclear policy.
Well, thank you very much. We have a very big announcement today that has to do with nuclear energy and other things. And this is all nuclear. It's a hot industry. It's a brilliant industry. You have to do it right. It's become very safe and environmental, yes, 100%.
Thank you, President Trump. This is a huge day for the nuclear industry. Mark this day on your calendar. This is going to turn the clock back on over 50 years of over-regulation of an industry.
The first executive order we have for you relates to the issue that Secretary Hegseth was speaking to, which is the need for incredible amounts of power at defense installations and also in AI-focused installations. What this executive order will do is speed up the approval and adoption process for specialized nuclear reactors at these sorts of sites. It also involves the Department of Energy making available the necessary fuel stock. It also creates a special envoy position and a strategy around nuclear technology export, the idea being that we can grow American industry on the back of foreign purchasers who are interested in this sort of technology as well.
It's phase one, very big phase, very important phase.
Sir, this next executive order is intended to reform the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Before 1978, there were 133 reactors built in the United States.
It's exciting, right?
So this executive order, it orders a revised regulatory process to speed this whole process while preserving, obviously, core safety concerns. It also creates a new pilot program with an expectation that we will have 3 new experimental reactors online by July 4th next year.
It's amazing. That's exciting.
This executive order, among other actions, includes an invocation of the Defense Production Act in order to spur a closer collaboration with private industry to ensure that we have the fuel supplies we need for a modernized nuclear energy sector, and a number of other key building blocks to the overall nuclear industry that we're trying to spur here.
Thank you. Well,
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov announced that on Friday that Moscow is ready to present Ukraine with the draft proposals for a comprehensive peace settlement once the ongoing prisoners of war exchange is completed. Speaking in Moscow, Lavrov said both sides are working on separate documents for a stable, long-term and comprehensive agreement, building on progress made during the recent talks in Turkey. Lavrov emphasized Russia's commitment to the May 16th Istanbul agreements, which include exchanging 1,000 prisoners each and considering a ceasefire. On May 23rd, 270 Russian and 270 Ukrainian prisoners of war, along with 120 civilians from each side, were exchanged, with more swap expected soon.
Публично и в своих переговорах с зарубежными деятелями, но обращаю ваше внимание, что все жесты доброй воли, которые мы предпринимали, включая перемирие по случаю православной Пасхи, перемирие по случаю Дня Победы, равно как и перемирие в виде моратория, месячного моратория на атаки по энергетической инфраструктуре, о котором было объявлено после разговора президентов Путина и Трампа, все эти перемирия нами соблюдались, и все они срывались с Украиной, которая продолжала свои агрессивные преступные действия в ходе объявленных нами пауз в ведении боевых действий. Мы, еще раз подчеркну, также привержены и тем договоренностям, которые были достигнуты недавно в Стамбуле между делегациями России и Украины. Мы завершаем нашу подготовительную работу по составлению списка для обмена военнопленными по принципу 1000 на 1000, и мы активно работаем над второй частью договоренностей, которая предусматривает подготовку каждой из сторон проекта документа с изложением условий достижения устойчивой, долгосрочной, всеобъемлющей договоренности о урегулировании. И вот сейчас, как только завершится обмен военнопленными, мы к этому времени будем готовы передать украинской стороне проект такого документа, который российская сторона публично и в своих переговорах с зарубежными деятелями, Но обращаю ваше внимание, что все жесты доброй воли, которые мы предпринимали, включая перемирие по случаю православной Пасхи, перемирие по случаю Дня Победы, равно как и перемирие в виде моратория, месячного моратория на атаки по энергетической инфраструктуре, о котором было объявлено после разговора президентов Путина и Трампа, все эти перемирия нами соблюдались, и все они срывались Украиной, которая продолжала свои агрессивные преступные действия в ходе объявленных нами пауз в ведении боевых действий. Мы, еще раз подчеркну, также привержены тем договоренностям, которые были достигнуты недавно в Стамбуле между делегациями России и Украины. Мы завершаем нашу подготовительную работу по составлению списка для обмена военнопленными по принципу 1000 на 1000. И мы активно работаем над второй частью договоренностей, которые предусматривают.
Ukraine and Russia have initiated the largest prisoner swap of the war, involving around 1,000 soldiers and civilians from each side. The first groups began crossing the Belarusian border today in a coordinated exchange effort. Russia's defense ministry confirmed the return of 270 Russian service members and 120 civilians, including individuals detained in the Kursk region. In exchange, Ukraine received an equal number of its nationals. Russia stated that the released prisoners were now in Belarus and that the exchange would continue in the coming days. The ministry emphasized that the initiatives were this extensive swap came from the Russian side.
Слава Україні! Героям слава! Слава Україні! Слава Україні! Слава Україні! Слава Україні! Слава Україні! Брат! Дуже вітаю! Вітаю!
Я попав на огне. Братан, я на Украине.
Мам, меня обменяли, все, я дома. Я живой, со мной все хорошо, мам.
Сьогоднішній день головне відбувся обмін. І це перший етап найбільшого обміну, про який домовились в Туреччині. Фактично єдиний значимий результат зустрічі в Туреччині. Все інше росіяни блокують. Поки що блокують.
Слава Україні! Героям слава! Слава Україні! Слава Україні! Слава Україні! Слава Україні! Слава Україні!
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for a permanent ceasefire, the immediate release of hostages, and full humanitarian access in Gaza. The UN says claims of Hamas diverting aid have been exaggerated, but that some supplies looted from trucks ended up in the black market, selling for exorbitant prices.
For nearly 80 days, Israel blocked the entry of life-saving international aid. As the world's leading hunger assessment found, the entire population of Gaza is facing the risk of famine. Families are being starved and denied the very basics, all with the world watching in real time. All the aid authorized until now amounts to a teaspoon of aid when a flood of assistance is required. The needs are massive and the obstacles are staggering. Strict quotas are being imposed on the goods we distribute, along with unnecessary delay procedures. Other essentials, including fuel, shelter, cooking gas, and water purification supplies, are prohibited. And the big picture is that without rapid, reliable, safe, and sustained aid access, more people will die, and the long-term consequences on the entire population will be profound. This is my appeal for life-saving aid for the long-suffering people of Gaza. Let's do it right, and let's do it. For nearly 80 days, Israel blocked the entry of life-saving international aid. As the world's leading hunger assessment found, the entire population of Gaza is facing the risk of famine. Families are being starved and denied the very basics, all with the world watching in real time. All the aid authorized until now amounts to a teaspoon of aid when a flood of assistance is required. The needs are massive and the obstacles are staggering. Strict quotas are being imposed on the goods we distribute, along with unnecessary delay procedures. Other essentials, including fuel, shelter, cooking gas, and water purification supplies, are prohibited. And the big picture is that without rapid, reliable, safe, and sustained aid access, more people will die, and the long-term consequences on the entire population will be profound. This is my appeal for life-saving aid for the long-suffering people of Gaza. Let's do it right, and let's do it. For nearly 80 days, Israel blocked the entry of life-saving international.
A flight carrying 45 Chilean migrants deported by the United States arrived in Santiago late on Thursday, May 22nd. According to local news reports, 3 of the individuals have active detention orders in the U.S. The deportations are part of ongoing immigration enforcement efforts by U.S. authorities targeting individuals with illegal or procedural violations. Chilean officials met the returnees at the airport, and the group is expected to undergo routine processing upon the arrival. The cease has drawn public attention in Chile, particularly concerning those with prior legal issues abroad. Further details about their future legal status remain unclear.
Territory deported from the United States following that country's legislation. According to this, and to preserve migration safety, a total of 45 national citizens entered our country. During the process in this Department of Migrations and International Police in the airport, it was detected that 3 of them had active arrest warrants. So they were handed over to the corresponding court this morning.
US President Donald Trump escalated trade tensions by threatening a 50% tariff on European Union goods starting June 1st, citing stalled negotiations with the bloc. The move signals a possible resurgence of Washington's volatile trade war strategy, which has previously disrupted global markets and sparked fears of an economic downturn. Trump also warned Apple of potential 25% tariff on all iPhones purchased by US consumers, aiming to pressure the tech giant to shift production to the United States. However, with no large-scale smartphone manufacturing in the US, such a move could raise iPhone prices by hundreds of dollars.
You said this morning that if they don't make their iPhones in the U.S., you're going to hit them with a 25% tariff.
Right.
Do you have the power to tariff one single company? And why would you
No,
want to
it'll
hurt
be
an
more.
American company in that way?
It would be more. So anybody that makes that product, and that'll start on, I guess, the end of June. It'll come out. I think we have that appropriately done by the end of June. So if they make that product. Now, again, when they build their plant here, there's no tariff. We were restricted from, essentially restricted from selling cars into the European Union, which is not nice. And I just said it's time that we play the game the way I know how to play the game. They've taken advantage of other people representing this country, and they're not going to do that any longer. Yeah.
Mr. President.
Secretary. Sure, I'll just add to that before going to Will. Energy security is national security.
I'm not looking for a deal. I mean, we've set the deal. It's at 50%. But again, there is no tariff if they build their plant here. Now, if somebody comes in and wants to build a plant here, I can talk to them about a little bit of a delay. But, while they're building their plant, which is something I think that would be appropriate, maybe we'll determine that.
It's had the effect of throttling development of new, highly modernized nuclear reactors that could really revolutionize the field of nuclear power generation. So this executive order.
Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba said on Friday that he had held a telephonic conversation with the US President Donald Trump, agreeing to pursue productive discussions on the upcoming round of tariff negotiations. Investment, not tariff, Ishiba emphasized, reaffirming Japan's stance against recent US tariff measures and its preference for boosting Japanese investment in the US as a path to job creation. The call came as Japan's chief negotiator, Economic Revitalization Minister Ryoshi Akazawa, traveled to Washington for a third round of talks. Ishiba reiterated Japan's demand for the removal of all recent tariffs, though Trump reportedly gave no direct response.
会談を行いました。トランプ大統領との間では、関税をめぐる日米協議に関して、経済安全保障にかかる協力など諸課題について幅広く意見交換を行ったところであります。で、外交安全保障をめぐる諸課題につきましても意見交換をいたしましたが、先方から先般の中東訪問の成果につき説明がありました。私からはトランプ大統領の外交努力を多とするというふうに申し上げたところでございます。で、私どもとして関税措置の撤廃ということを求めていくということに変わりはありませんが、我々としてアメリカに対してどのような投資を行っていくか、これはもう今まで申し上げたことでございますが、関税よりも投資。
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan warmly welcomed Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez in Istanbul ahead of talks focused on strengthening cooperation. The leaders discussed expanding partnership in defense, transportation, and other strategic sectors, aiming to boost bilateral relations and regional stability. Both sides expressed commitment to enhancing economic ties and exploring joint initiatives to address shared challenges. The meeting underscores Turkey and Spain's intent to deepen collaboration across multiple areas for mutual benefit. And that's the end of the bulletin. Keep watching CVR News English.